If you love stories about real-life family drama, then what I went through after getting married will shock you. Because the moment I stepped into my home with my husband, I thought I was entering a peaceful chapter of life, a shared space where we could build our dreams together, laugh, and create memories. But little did I know that my mother-in-law, someone I had respected and even tried to bond with, would slowly take over every corner of my home and even attempt to control my marriage, leaving me trapped in a space that was supposed to belong to me as much as to her son. At first, she seemed sweet and caring, offering to help me with little things, arranging the kitchen, suggesting where I could place utensils, and giving me advice about cleaning or decorating. And I politely accepted, thinking it was out of love and wanting to support a newlywed. But slowly, the help turned into control, and every day she became more involved in decisions that were mine to make. She began to dictate what I cooked, how I cleaned, how I arranged my bedroom, and even critiqued my wardrobe, insisting that certain clothes were better suited for our home or our social gatherings. And each small comment, though polite in tone, carried a weight that made me feel like I had no say in my own life. My husband, who I expected would stand by me, stayed silent more than I expected, often nodding along, as if agreeing with his mother. And it left me feeling isolated, powerless, and frustrated because the home that was supposed to be a partnership was turning into a space where I had to silently comply with someone else's rules. At first, I tried to overlook it, thinking that patience and subtle adjustments could balance our relationship, but her control kept growing. She started rearranging furniture, putting her belongings in my drawers, reorganizing my personal items, and even moving things while I was asleep or away, creating an invisible barrier between me and the life I wanted to build with my husband. Each day, I felt more like a guest in my own home than a wife, and no matter how gently I tried to assert myself, my husband's silence made it impossible to confront her effectively. I remembered the life I had, imagined quiet mornings, laughter over coffee, shared responsibilities, and feeling safe in my own space, but instead, I faced constant scrutiny, unsolicited advice, and an unspoken power struggle that drained me, emotionally and mentally. Friends who visited could sense the tension, asking if everything was okay, and I had to force smiles while my mind raced with frustration. It felt unfair, impossible, and utterly isolating, and I wondered if my husband's silence meant that he agreed with his mother's behavior or was simply unwilling to stand up for me. The breaking point came one evening when I returned home, exhausted from work, hoping to unwind, only to find my mother-in-law sitting in my bedroom, sorting through my clothes, as if I wasn't even there, her smile calm and innocent, masking the fact that she had taken over yet another part of my life. That's when I realized that I couldn't stay silent any longer. I had to reclaim my space, my dignity, and my right to live in a home I shared with my husband, not just under the shadow of his mother. I calmly walked toward her, my voice steady but firm, and said, "I appreciate your help, but this is my home too. We need to live here together, with mutual respect and boundaries. I cannot continue to feel like a guest in my own life." For the first time, I saw a flicker of surprise in her eyes, a momentary crack in the mask she wore so confidently, and I knew that my words had reached her. My husband, who had stood silently behind me countless times before, now watched with wide eyes, realizing for the first time how much his silence had affected me and how much control his mother had taken. That evening, we had a long, tense discussion where I explained how her behavior had made me feel, from rearranged furniture to critiqued cooking, to the intrusion into my personal space, and how her constant interference had created a household where my choices felt invisible, my voice unheard, and my marriage overshadowed. My husband, finally understanding my perspective, voiced support, emphasizing that while we respected and valued his mother's experience, we also needed autonomy, mutual respect, and shared decision-making. And slowly, a shift began to happen. My mother-in-law, for the first time, hesitated before speaking, acknowledged my points, and began to listen rather than impose, realizing that her dominance could no longer continue unchecked. And though the change was gradual, small victories began to emerge. My wardrobe remained untouched. My personal items were respected, and household decisions started being discussed rather than dictated. Over time, I noticed subtle but significant changes. She consulted me before rearranging anything, stopped questioning my choices, and even began giving me space to make my own mistakes without interference. My husband became more proactive, reinforcing our shared boundaries, and I felt empowered in ways I hadn't before, realizing that speaking up respectfully but firmly could change even the most entrenched household dynamics. Slowly, the home that once felt oppressive began to transform into a place of balance, where love, respect, and boundaries coexisted, and though occasional disagreements arose, they were handled through calm discussions rather than silent battles or hidden resentment. Looking back, I realized that my mother-in-law's control had been a test of courage, patience, and assertiveness, teaching me invaluable lessons about standing up for myself while maintaining family harmony and proving that even when your spouse remains silent, initially, it is possible to reclaim your space, assert your rights, and restore peace in your home through thoughtful communication and persistence. Today, our house reflects a balance of respect, understanding, and partnership. A home where I feel heard, valued, and empowered, and where my mother-in-law participates without dominating, proving that change is possible when boundaries are set, voices are raised respectfully, and love remains at the center of family life. The story that began with shock, frustration, and silent suffering transformed into a narrative of empowerment, courage, and restored harmony, showing that even the most controlling dynamics can evolve when confronted with patience, clarity, and assertiveness, and leaving me stronger, wiser, and more confident in building the life I had dreamed of with my husband in a home that now truly belongs to both of us.